Hello, welcome back to What Is This Weapon? And back to an untold story of the Martini-Henry with our friend Neil Aspinshaw, who, and I must direct your attention to this book, wrote what is essentially the Bible on the Martini-Henry rifle. And I must refer you back to part 1 of this, because there's some pretty key information in there. We have been looking, the unifying factor here is the 402 calibre, the reduced bore, increased velocity, all of that. Check out that first episode, various other improvements, and we ended up with what should have been the final pattern, really, logically.
Absolutely.
With, and just quickly to run back through, so we've got our improved cartridge and chamber, therefore, here. We've got an ambidextrous lightened action body or receiver. We've messed about a bit with safeties, but we've arrived at this idea of one on the side, which is pretty good.
Thumb safety catch, yeah. Principle's good.
Sighting arrangements have changed. We've got a close quarter battle sight, essentially, and then a long range sight, but not long range volley / dial sights. We've got heat management with a handguard and exposed barrel for cooling. 2 ways of dealing with heating. Again, all covered in detail in the other episode. We had a bayonet adapted for this setup here as well. And they're manufacturing them at scale, starting to. They've had feedback that the troops aren't wildly happy with it, and cost is the other thing, isn't it?
Absolutely. Their estimates were coming in far too expensive. The average price for a standard Martini in 1886 was about £2.03.
Bargain. I'll take 2.
I wish I could buy some now at that price, but this was coming in nearer £4. It was starting to become an overestimate.
Is this twice as good as a standard Martini-Henry to justify that cost?
Theoretically, the principle is sound, and you can see why they're heading towards that. But there's other things happening in Europe and in Enfield, this is starting to lose traction.
That Lee bolt action. Creeping in parallel to this. Referring back to another of our episodes there with the improved Lee, which, despite the name, is really the first one to be seriously looked at for British service.
Yes.
So at the same time as this, trials against the Bethel Burton and the Owen Jones, scratch-designed magazine rifles. The French Lebel is arrived. That's also smokeless, and they're starting to flirt with smokeless ammunition as well. The rapid pace of 19th century technology is starting to make this look a bit dicey. Yeah,
single shot, again, magazine bolt action rifles. The Germans have improved the 7184 Mauser.
That too.
The British doctrine was still single shot. You look at the cutaways on a Lee Metford, they were still looking at single shot. They didn't want the men to blaze away. So this is kind of clinging on.
And the Martini is such a good single shot rifle as well. They don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
No,
so they're persisting with this, but reality is going to start to bite. But how do they tackle these complications, especially the cost and the issues with the troops?
They wanted to simplify it. They took it. They liked the salient features, but there was issues. Again, you still get reports coming back from the Sudan, and that's really still the earthquake is still tremoring from that. They had a meeting at Horse Guards. It resulted in an official military blue paper where they actually were interviewing men who'd fought in the Sudan campaign, and present were all the great and the good. There was Redwood Buller, Henry Arbuthnot was there, the Duke of Cambridge was present, and they was bringing up generals, troopers and general soldiers who'd fought in the desert campaign and give them their expectation of what had happened. And it was called the jamming of rifles and the bending of bayonets in Nubia.
It was snappy.
And the kind of overriding thing that came back was the sand and the issues and the kind of jamming issues.
We love these scandals in British military history, don't we?
Absolutely. But one thing that I mentioned in my book is that there was one particular person there which changed my whole perception of the Martini. And it's the big thing. Every book you ever pick up tells you about the cartridge cases delaminating, the base is tearing off and rendering the rifle useless.
Can I just say, there's not just that, but this book handily debunks several of these old chestnuts, what we call FUD law now, about the Martini-Henry, and this is one of them.
Yeah, and particularly the guy, because all this development has been fed into the new arm. They're absorbing the issues. Now, how can we overcome them and design a better way? And the particular Crabby of the Grenadier Guards. There you go.
And it's the problem with this myth is so pervasive, I think, because if you just look at the cartridge, you go, oh, well, yeah, it's a separate iron disc, and it makes sense. If this is stuck in here, that's just going to rip off, and the rifle's completely knackered.
And by this time,
but it's not that big a deal, is it?
It's not that big a deal, no. And there's a Crabby of the 4th Grenadier Guards, and he was a lieutenant fought at Tabutulaya. Was involved in the action there, and they asked him in front of the committee at Horse Guards, did you ever see the base of the cartridge detach, rendering the rifle useless? And Crabby report, which is in the official blue paper, he said, on service I never saw that. But then he was asked, what was your role before you joined the Camel Corps? And he said, I was inspector of musketry in my battalion for 7 years. And he'd never seen it happen.
You'd think if anyone would see one, it would be him. So this is a theoretical, of course, ideally you wouldn't have a separate, harder piece of metal that can, in theory, rip off.
That leads then to the solid drawn case. So we were heading towards the solid drawn case.
Yeah, that's the engineering design ideal, but this was serviceable.
Still serviceable.
The other thing is people look at that crinkle cut cartridge case and go, oh, that's pretty poor. But that kind of worked okay as well.
The idea is to make it easy to fit in the bore, so it expanded on firing. That de facto
feature, not a bug.
That de facto created the problem with the jamming partially because the expansion would cause it to bind. So that's why the Enfield-Martini has now got a tapered case like the Bell. It's solid drawn.
Again, ideally you do want a solid drawn case with an integral case head, and then you've got the added taper in the case of the improved 402 cartridge to make it even easier to extract. But we shouldn't get too hung up on the old rolled brass separate iron head being a disaster. It wasn't.
No, history has become a scapegoat for history, really. Interestingly enough, though, what they did find with the earlier pattern, one of the comments is the case is substantially heavier. A fired case is double the weight of a foil case. The short lever didn't give you enough warmth to extract the case, and they saw that. And also add the contaminant such as sand. They wanted to. Is there anything we can do whilst we're getting rid of some of the features? What can we do to actually partially improve it even more? And that led to a new variant of the Enfield-Martini, what has become known as the Mk.II. But there was never an official designation. This has got no designation marking on it because it wasn't adopted.
Right, so we have to be wary of Mark 1, Mark 2.
Mark 2, because theoretically neither have got an official nomenclature in the...
Okay, so we can call this next one Mark 2, but we have to do this every time.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Noted. So let's swap over to the. Well, let's keep this on the table.
Absolutely, because we can see the salient differences.
And those of you who know and maybe even shoot the Mk.IV, lots of them in the States, I'm told, might just say, oh, well, that's just a 450 Mk.IV Martini, isn't it?
It's not, though.
It's not, no.
So this is the effect to try to simplify the arm and make it more usable across the forces. The big issue was then becoming, we've got 450 calibre ammunition, we've got 402 ammunition, we've got Gardner Gatling ammunition, we've got Snyder, still being used by the colonial forces at that time.
Until the 1890s at least.
Yeah, so the whole idea of harmonising ammunition is starting to come into this giant funnel, and it's all coming out at the bottom. So they're looking to harmonise, and there's lots of questions being asked. Do we want multiple calibres where they could get mixed up? So what they're then looking to do is make the volunteers use the same calibre ammunition to simplify the rifle. So then we come at this. Now this is what's the second pattern, Enfield-Martini 402. Yep. Now you can see the same salient, they've got the same kind of receiver actions, but they've really simplified it now. They've taken away a lot of the complicated handguards, and they've a simple kind of Mk.III four-end wood.
We've given up on worrying about heat then.
We've given up on worrying about heat. They've taken a few of the things.
Just suck it up and deal with it.
Yeah. You can see now the barleycorn's got a raised lip to it to draw your eye up to the barleycorn.
Okay.
Because the bayonet for the Enfield-Martini is effectively fitted
Yes.
onto the barrel, it
And we
blocks
see
the
this
line of
on
sight.
later weapons,
Yes,
don't we?
and
Yep.
it's designed to lead
ramp.
your eye up, the ramp, up to the barleycorn. Now, the original ones had the block barleycorn and they soldered on the ramp, but the later versions had the built-up
Okay,
ramp.
interesting.
The critical design feature, though, is two. The first one is the clearing rod itself. Now, the clearing rod is this. Now, this is designed, unlike the earlier pattern, which has got a cam with a flat spot on it to let you remove the clearing rod. This is sprung. Because what they've done is they developed the jag to suit it.
Okay.
With the earlier pattern jag rotated like a capstan as you pulled it through the bore. The later one is a solid metal one. And the idea is that the thread on the end of the rod is longer so it doesn't unscrew itself. It's a solid metal jag, not a rotary jag.
Right.
So the rifling thread does undo it a little bit, but the thread's long enough to mean that it's not enough length in the barrel to unscrew it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So they developed the jag for it. So there's lots of developments going on. And the other thing with that clearing rod as well, it's now sprung load and it clips into place to
It
make
does,
sure it
yeah.
stays
There we go.
where it
Hear
is.
it.
Yeah.
Clips in.
The big
Compared
feature.
to-
Now that will have a flat spot on it, so you have to turn it round until it reaches the flat spot and allows you to pull it out. But they do come loose.
yes.
There's a little sprung-loaded cam on that.
See if I can. There we go. Yeah. So
So
a
that's
notch,
very similar traditional Martini-Henry features.
2 notches, effectively.
Yeah.
So it
And it
goes
clips,
in
yeah.
and it rotates.
And it rotates, but this one, it's sprung, so you have to pull it away.
Yeah.
And also, what they've done, eliminated catch points and spots which will scratch the bore.
Okay.
So they've done away with the muzzle protector with a cleaning hole in it. You're now using the rod on its own, so you don't want metal-to-metal contact.
And we've almost reverted to a sort of old school musket nose cap on the woodwork here.
Yeah.
Because this sort of semi-integral approach with the new bayonet design, they've moved away from that.
Yeah,
So
they've gone
they've
traditional
reverted.
side-loaded bayonet. Because
Now, why was why was the bayonet put in that more modern ventral position?
but it gave you enhanced balance.
Just the same reason we do it on everything else.
On SMLE, they've all got the bayonet under the barrel.
It's a deliberate choice. They haven't done it because of some other design change. They're thinking more in terms of more modern bayonet
Absolutely,
fighting. Everything's in line.
But you've got to think,
Stronger,
it's
better
1886, there's millions
But
of...
we've gone backwards here.
Yeah, we've gone back to sword bayonets, we've gone back to the old yataghans, so it makes it interchangeable with all the existing bayonet patterns in the design. So there's no specific bayonet for this yet, but they developed the bayonet to suit it.
Yep.
The
Rear sights, sorry, Neil,
Rear sights-
are the same pattern?
Same pattern, yeah. The only difference is they've simplified and they've removed the windage.
So they have, yeah. Interesting. So that was adjustable how? Remind us.
So that one, it's adjustable with there's a sliding cam on there which allows to give you some windage adjustment.
Yep.
With this one, it's got the traditional Martini-Henry windage sighting on it. Okay, but it's still sighted the same range.
And we've also, because this has no battle sight when it's folded down, because you have a battle sight back here.
Yeah.
That was found to look too blurry, which I
blurry.
can vouch for.
They've now moved it further down into
Off
traditional
here.
place, so you're now peering straight down the barrel.
Yep.
It's 100 yard zero.
Integrated into the sight, which is really how it's done from before that and after that.
Yeah.
So battle sight and then flip up with adjustable increments there, and it's the same range.
Same range, same rifling, same everything. The barrel is the same, but again, you've got the same profile barrel. The big difference, they made the lever longer.
Yeah, we can see that.
And there's two reasons for that. The first one is that you've got the weight of the cartridge. You've now got a solid drawn cartridge, so they want enhanced extraction capabilities on it.
I mean, it's significantly longer, isn't it? It's almost twice the
twice the
overall
length,
length.
and it's designed to give you better mechanical advantage.
Yeah.
The other thing, of course, is if you've got a jammed case, it gives you that little bit extra kind of whoomp.
We're all the way back here. Obviously, basic physics, longer lever, because there's an extractor device in here, of course, but in many ways, this is my extractor, to make an obscure movie reference, sort of.
They've done away with the safety catch. You've got the traditional salient Martini features of the side cock indicator. It's just a cheaper version.
So they've taken the sort of Billy Basics features and carried those over, but anything that's adding cost without perceived benefit is gone.
Yeah. But there's
Sorry.
There's things happening in the background now that our buff's not aware of. Production's racing ahead. There's 27,000 of these patterns made. They were only supposed to make 1,000. There's 40,000 of these being made. Actually 49,000 being made. But things happen in the background. The Rubin.
Yep.
Enfield was told to stop production and produce 3 Martinis with Rubin rifle in, and it shot the Enfield Martini off the planet.
Calibre? Same?
298.
Oh, 298. Okay. Wow. Right.
Smaller bore. So you got a Martini Rubin.
So we're already at the Rubin. When you say Rubin, I think obviously 300, 303. That's it. 298. We're already down.
We're already down.
Enfield calibre.
And the Rubin literally shot this off the competition.
Now this is that case that's sort of almost cylindrical with the bullets sticking.
Yes.
So the same early round that is in the service Lee, or sorry, the developmental service Lee.
Yeah. So then we've got in the background, we've then got the Lee being developed in another part of the factory. The Rubin comes in. The Lee was going to be a 402 Lee.
Yeah.
The Rubin's changing everything. This is rapidly becoming obsolete before it was even production.
In almost every respect.
In every respect.
Cartridge, magazine capability was just not there anymore. We tried it, but we've binned it off. Almost every feature is now suddenly old hat. And this is not that many years after the introduction of the Martini, full stop.
Martini is probably one of the most famous rifles after the Lee in the British service. It's probably the shortest lived.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Lee series, 1888 through to, what was it, 2016, they finally withdrew the cadet rifle in 22. That's insane. And this poor thing, how many years is it?
Well, we officially adopted it in August 1874, and by 1886 it was obsolete. So 12 years, fairly limited lifespan.
Bad timing.
Bad timing. Very bad timing.
Great rifle, comes around just when things are really shifting.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate in a way that they went down this blind alley. Well, not a blind alley, that's not fair. But
no, it was the right rifle at the time of its conception, but foreign influence has now completely overtaken. Yeah. You know,
so Rubin, Swiss, and we're looking at the French Lebel, the German 7184, as you say.
Bolt action, everything is right about it. What's happening? And
bolt action didn't make, certainly to the British mind, didn't make sense when it was a single shot.
No, absolutely.
And now you can have a magazine on it, whether it's a tube under the barrel, like the Lebel, or the Lee magazine, as is on the improved Lee that they were actually trialing. It suddenly makes sense to have it bolt action. This is a superior system for a single shot.
Yeah, absolutely. So 26th of June 1886, the plug was pulled. Much that Arbuthnot couldn't believe it. He genuinely couldn't believe it. Arbuthnot had been in his role when, as a superintendent of the small arms factory, you're due to retire at 60. You must retire at 60. But Arbuthnot had been promised for extension of his time at Enfield. He'd done so much good at Enfield. You know, he bought all the state-of-the-art machinery and everything. But this was his brainchild, and he was still fighting tooth and nail to retain this. But it basically was said, stop.
And that machinery, by the way, carried on for decades, isn't it? There's a photo in your book of a Blanchard-type copy lathe for stock.
Still been used in the 60s.
Used in the 60s. So Enfield, it has phases. 1816, I think it was, as a sort of beginning to become proper machine-based factory, but it doesn't really become the factory that we think of until the 1850s. And then again, they're going and expanding and modernising to really the extent it became in the 20th century. But it's his fault.
Absolutely, but you know,
not fault. Sorry, that's you know what I mean. It's down to him.
Yeah, but he'd visited the Italian factory in Terni. He'd been to the Mauser factory in Oldendorf. He'd been to Springfield Armouries. The machinery at Enfield was absolutely state of the art. It was a model of modern engineering, and a lot of that was to do with Arbuthnot. It increased the motive power from kind of water power to steam. He'd got now electric lighting in the factory. The whole factory was becoming a very modern factory, but we were making a firearm that was becoming obsolete quite quickly. June the 26th, 1886, stop. And there was almost, you could have probably heard a pin drop, because somebody said, what do you mean stop? We're not having this. What do you mean we're not having it? We're going with the Lee. Oh. I've made 26,000 of these. I've made 47,000 of these at a cost of £36 million.
In modern
modern
money, we worked out earlier. Yeah, it's quite an investment. But I guess they hadn't ever had the official green light,
No.
had they? They'd been a bit ahead of themselves.
It was, yeah, a lot of it was to do with the Enfield factory. Was very much unions led in the Enfield factory, and they were basically demanding that the government gave them work. It's interesting that the Sparkbrook factory never really took off. In actual fact, they'd moved the small arms repair factory at Bagot Street to Sparkbrook because the machinery, which is fairly much state of the art, National Arms factory only set that up in the late 1870s, so the machinery was good, and they decided to kind of harmonise everything and bring it all into Sparkbrook to become the Royal Small Arms Repair Factory. Bagot Street was closing, so everything that was true to Arbuthnot heart is being stripped away from him. He gets to 60 and they said, sorry old boy, you're retiring, whether he liked it or not, because his brainchild had failed. And when the costs started to look into it, and £36 million in modern money, what are we going to do next? We've got millions of these arms made, they're going to be redundant, what do we do? And then Rigby is installed as the officer in charge of, who was he wasn't a military man, he was a rifle maker.
Yeah, Rigby, in case you were wondering.
Yeah, John Rigby. So we're now saying we're bringing a non-military engineer gun maker into the factory to bring the new state-of-the-art rifle, which is going to be the Lee Metford. However, there's thousands of redundant Martinis now in the factory and at Whedon stores with kind of the failed project, the rifle that never was. There's 40,000 parts and components for rifles in the factory already made. Barrels, action bodies, receivers, everything is being made in the factory in production for the next year. It's been cancelled. What do we do next? And that leads us to the Mk.IV.
I guess it's the obvious thing, isn't it? We take this pattern. This is already a dead duck, presumably. Had they continued with 402, that would have been the only game in town.
Absolutely.
Or would they have issued the ones they had made of this? Do we think?
Difficult. The engineering on the earlier pattern made it so difficult to use for anything else.
Yeah.
The later pattern was very easy to convert. One of the advantages when they produced this is the barrel profile is the same profile as the 450.
Which made the 402 too heavy. As we covered last time.
But allowed you to re-engineer it and rebore the barrel.
So that's kind of lucky in a way. I don't think they wouldn't have anticipated, or did they anticipate the need to revert?
Unlikely. I think it was just fortunate.
Yeah.
That, of course, the British Army was going to go for the Lee Metford. That was their accepted rifle at the time. But our colonial armies, the Indian armies, the Egyptian armies, were still heavily engrossed in the 450 calibre Martini-Henry. In fact, I mean, you look at the last great black powder battle in history, which is the Battle of Omdurman. The Egyptian troops were all Martini-armed Egyptian troops. And interestingly, they held the line with Hector MacDonald, but that's another story. But of course, there's tens of millions of Martini rounds, 450 still in service, and you've got colonials, the Canadians have still got them, so the Australians have still got them, so there's no reason at all to start to think, well, actually, we're not going to throw these away, we can start to look to convert the ones we've got. And the cost estimates came in at about 2 shillings per piece, so it wasn't a massively expensive process with this pattern on. This one was a completely different animal altogether.
So we can save the day by turning these back to the old Martini calibre.
Absolutely.
So let's put this one away and let's bring out the Mk.IV pattern A.
Correct.
Very, very similar indeed.
Very similar indeed. The difference is this is almost like a completely new build gun.
Okay.
So the first process, what do we do with all the first pattern Enfield Martinis? Break them up.
So the one we've just binned there, metaphorically, actually got binned.
Literally bin it, yeah. the only things that could be retained, because there's all different drilling features, the receivers all had to be remade. The barrel could be reused because we could actually re-engineer the barrel and re-drill them to 450 calibre. And the salient difference whenever you look at the inspection marks, the proofing marks under the barrel, there's 2 lines of proofing. One for its 402, the second for when it's reproofed into 450.
Right.
So
we're saving just the barrels from that thing.
Predominantly just the barrel.
Maybe some.
The woodwork is okay.
Okay.
Except this is designed for a short lever, so you'll find on this one there'll be a little
I've seen the infill
plug where the short lever was. So they've kept the woodwork. They've Also introduced a little
just
brass
show that.
shim.
Sorry. So just in there, there's a wooden plug where the short lever end would have clipped in, and we've added a new brass socket. Yeah, back here.
So because the giveaway as well is the lock viewers mark, you'll always find the Mk.IV dead centre on that. So they're new made receivers. They had to be because all the drilling for the speed load and everything's gone, so they couldn't reuse those.
Sorry, you mentioned a shim.
Shim. So they developed a little brass shim to go between the butt and the butt plate.
Oh, okay.
Because in salt water, the rust then caused mildew into the woodwork. So there's a few kind of minor developments they actually liked.
Is that on this? Or?
Yes, it will be. There'll be a little brass shim between the two.
So it's concealed?
Concealed, yeah.
Okay, got you.
So the only thing we can retain is the barrel. Mm-hmm. The short range sight's gone, and there's they took it away and they brazed a little panel on the Knox form where that was being removed. So there'll be screw holes there where the original sight was. That's been removed, so they've changed the barrel. They've re-drilled the barrel. They've put 450 Henry rifling back into it again. It's now the whole barrel is now designed to suit the 450 cartridge, 577 450. That's about it.
Back to the future.
Back,
effectively.
I don't know. Back to the future, back to the past. I think would be
probably more apt.
So there's 26,000 Enfield-Martini first patterns made that's now being broken up to produce new made arms in a traditional Martini-Henry style. The fore-end wood is the mark from the Mk.IV rifle, so they're using the parts, the traditional cocking indicators brought back in. The tumbler is traditional. The only thing they retain from is the extractor, and they just open the jaws up to take the new wider cartridge. Okay. But what you will find, if any collector's looking at these, you'll find ex-Enfield-Martini parts. They scored through the EM of Enfield-Martini and put a line through it. So you'll always know that part is formerly from an Enfield-Martini arm.
Good to know. So, and that of course means sights go back to...
Sights back to the conventional barleycorn.
Standard pattern at the rear, and no ramp.
No ramp.
Interestingly, even though the ramp comes back on the Lee.
The reason being is you can't fit a socket bayonet on the ramp.
Of course.
So it's converted back because all the colonial troops have got socket bayonets, so that would fit. It would also fit a yataghan, and they altered the bayonet, the 1886 bayonet, to suit the side loader. So then you get the 3 pattern of 1887 bayonet, which are made for the Martini as a sword bayonet,
without
and then
the hole in the guard.
Without the hole, but then you've got the converted bayonets, which is the Mk.IV, which is the 26,000 Enfield-Martini bayonets re-engineered. Confusing.
It really is. Any queries? Your book.
So this is the pattern A. Almost a wholly built new arm, apart from the barrel and the spare parts they've got. They make 26,000 of these.
Yep.
Then they're starting running out of the barrels and things that are being reused.
Okay.
So the next logical step is, what do we do with 40,000 unfinished rifles?
Yep.
They've got all these parts and barrels and actions bodies ready made and fore-end wood sets. Let's make some more. So then
here's another nearly identical rifle.
This is the Martini-Henry Mk.IV pattern B. Now the B is a new made rifle. It is made up of parts that are in stocks. The barrels are drilled made as a 450 barrel. They were barrel blanks.
Okay.
So they could rifle them to how they wanted to.
Sure.
They kept the salient parts of the original kind of arm. You'll find again on the lock viewer's mark, that's dead central, showing it is a pattern B, so it's dead in line with lock viewer's mark. It is a new made gun. It's not a conversion. It's a new made rifle. Now, again, the qualities are pretty much identical to the earlier Enfield-Martini. They've just made them and convert them into as new builds. And it's about 40,000 of these to be made. And they're making them from all the parts they've got at Enfield. Latterly, as they started running out of barrel blanks, they started using Mk.III barrel blanks as well, but the principle is still the same. But all the salient qualities is exactly the same as the Enfield-Martini, except it's a new build rifle. The giveaway on these, 2 giveaways, there's 1 line of proof lines underneath, inspection marks, because it's made as a new made gun. So we have the Martini-Henry Mk.IV pattern B. Then there's the pattern C. Now the pattern C is a conversion of the existing Enfield-Martini rifle. They were so easy to convert. They only needed to rebore the barrel and then change the extractor. And effectively then, it's a very cheap conversion. But what we decided to do was categorise A as the first one, which is the new made. We've got to break these rifles down. That's redundant. We've got B's. We've got all these spare parts now. We can make into new arms very quickly. We can quickly reassemble. Then there's the more kind of onerous task of breaking down the original Enfield-Martinis and reboring them and converting them back into a 450.
Right.
The nomenclature of these it becomes complicated because you've got A, B, and C logical. C is a conversion.
Yeah. So C is the one we haven't got on the table, but that's because it's function identical to this one.
Function identical. There's only
the difference is
one tiny giveaway, is that when they converted the barrels, they had to reduce the chamber size a fraction.
okay.
So to drill it out for a 450 calibre cartridge, they had to take about an eighth of an inch, a 16th of an inch off the length of the barrel.
Right.
The only way to tell the difference is that the top of the Mk.IV on one will be 31mm and it'll be 28 on the cut down version.
Okay.
And the War Department stamp will be part cut through.
Okay.
That's the only way you'll tell.
Wow. And I actually think even the pattern room got confused.
Absolutely.
And mislabeled one of these.
And to make matters worse, we spoke about the inherent strength of these. Some of them broke, so they had to put new receivers on, which actually show you get a B and C combined into one.
Oh, good grief.
So,
Okay.
so the only way to really tell is to take the fore-end wood off and you'll have 2 rows of inspection marking.
Understood. So this is real granular level detail.
Granular level detail.
The soldiers wouldn't have given a monkey.
They wouldn't. No. But the
about any of this.
So now, in effect,
That's why we're here.
yeah. So you've now got 100,000 Mk.IV Martini-Henrys produced, 70,000 conversions, and 30,000 have now been new made. So we've got the kind of 106,000 Mk.IV arms.
Yep.
By the time these were brought out, far out of date for the British Army. The London Metropolitan Volunteers got them because they were still using the 450 arm, and vast amounts were shipped to India.
Yep, makes sense.
To arm the Indian forces, and it was a very, very popular rifle. It was used right up until the turn of the century, and then of course they then shipped them over to Nepal. Why? And that's why such a lot of the Mk.IVs exist still for this day.
Yeah.
Was the Mk.IV the arm of the time? It probably was. For the final ultimate conclusion of the Martini-Henry story.
For about a fortnight.
Yeah.
it was the bee's knees.
Yeah. And of course, it's become the icon of the Mk.IV has become the iconic Martini now. Because most shooters like them because they're in such good condition. They're the latest variant. But it's just the end story of the rifle that never was.
Now, does that mean that Mark IIs would still have been in service with frontline troops while these are being issued to?
Absolutely.
Sorry, obvious thing to say perhaps, but we always think in this linear fashion of Mark III must have been better than II, and actually that's a different pattern for specific issue to the volunteers.
Yep.
Yeah. And then IV is this failed attempt. We've made the best of a bad job by making these different subvariants of it, but they're not going to frontline troops. So the Martini ends up as the frontline rifle from 1874 until, well, when? Because the Metford's coming in from 88, but as we know, they don't all appear overnight.
The frontline troops were started to change over from about 1889 to 91 was the kind of official changeover to the Metford.
Guards regiments.
Guards regiments. And a lot of them, the Martinis then in service were second classed, and they were then sent to Weedon to be second class, and they was inspected. So the two you'll often find them is a second class downgrading, and it wasn't people see that as being a kind of a poor rifle. It's not. It's just failed the shooting test. It's kind of salient marks, a bit worn. Great for kind of cadets and for volunteers. And the last production of the Mark II rifle as a made arm was at Enfield was 1889.
Well, there you go. That is indicative of just how there's always a tail to any issue, and we see that with military rifles today, sometimes with 3 different generations in service. So this and I've said this myself, that the Martini was only in service for a relatively short period. It is, but it's longer than people think.
Yeah, you're talking a 30-year time spell. If you think that the Nepalese troops had got these in 1906, when the King Edward VII visited in 1909, his guards were armed with Martini-Henrys. So theoretically, he said it was a short service. It was in the British service, but in actual fact, in colonial and foreign service, probably 30, 35 years. So
nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with it. And because it was soldier-proof, Jonathan, there's not much could go wrong with it. The fact that they upgraded to 303s and they were using them in the Boer War in 303 proves the fact that it was the Martini as a weapon system was still good.
The only thing holding it back is that integral magazine. And of course, the change in doctrine and training to really allow proper use of that hasn't even really happened. It's there as a... You can do it. You can give a rugged defence with rapid fire when you're ordered to, that kind of thing. But it's not till the First World War where we really start to give soldiers the autonomy to start firing rapid.
Yeah, of your own volition.
Of your own volition.
Yeah.
And we see that with the deletion of the cutoff on the Mk.IV Star. SMLE.
Yeah, and the dial sights, so they kind of... But
not to say that magazines weren't really important. They were, but they don't fully come into their own until later on. So this is... You've got to put it in context. You've got to see it as a product of its time, and it was excellent in many, many ways for much longer than you think.
I think you're right, and a kind of good analogy against this would probably be the Spitfire, really, because it's been superseded by the Focke-Wulf, and then the Spitfire's improved, and so the Martini's been improved, and then we move on to the jet age. So everything's... It's progression, it's miniature progression, but the Enfield-Martini was probably the kind of the TSR2 of its time in the Victorian times at a cost of £36 million to the taxpayer. Yeah,
but so almost a British military scandal that most of us have forgotten about, and there's one of many revelations in your excellent book. And to wrap up, we should tell people where they can get this.
Well, well, in the States, you can buy it from the wholesalers in the States or from my website, which is oddly enough Martini-Henry Society.
Which is in itself well worth a look. You know, whether or not you go for this, check out Neil's website. Thank you so much for coming in and shedding light on this and filling in a sizable gap in our video catalogue.
Okay, we generally say to all the viewers that we prefer our Martini shot, not stirred.
Shout out to Cian Arsenal for the T-shirt, who I know you've worked with as well. Yeah. Quite a happy little community that we have here. But hopefully we'll have you back on to talk about another aspect of what is I will say weirdly iconic on the internet. It was always a big deal in military history, movie buffs, Zulu and all of that. But things like Battlefield 1, the video game, have brought this to a whole new generation. And they are hopefully going to watch things like this, read things like this, and dive into the history of this iconic British military weapon and its non-British relatives as well. It's a whole family of interest and intrigue to follow. But yeah, thanks again, Neil, and we'll see you again for a normal episode next time. Thanks for watching this episode, guys. We do appreciate it. Don't forget to do the usual YouTube stuff, like, subscribe. And if you're able to visit our bricks and mortar museums here in the UK, we've met a number of fans who've managed to make it over here from other countries, and we love it when you do that. If you are here in the UK, we have our summer programme going on. Notably, there's a Roman festival, and that's the August bank holiday, but keep an eye out on the website or social media for anything else that's going on. That, of course, ties in with our Gladiators exhibition, which is underway here at Leeds. And if you're not making it up to Leeds, you can visit our museum at Fort Nelson, of course, and events going on there as well. And you can see our collection at the Tower of London. Also, if you'd like to check out the app and the website, History of Weapons and War, we are a part of that, along with a lot of other really good weapon-related YouTube creators who are also over there, usually offering you something additional to what they do on YouTube. So check that out if you're interested. Whatever you do, you'll see us here again next week.